right, I just want to start in Ephesians 5, verse 1. It says, "Follow God's example, therefore, as dearly loved children, and walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God." All right, amen. All right, I'm going to welcome Dan up, and we're going to share together this morning.
Good. Well, hey, as we jump in, I want to just add, we had a great men's weekend this weekend. Friday night and Saturday. We had a great time hanging out with some of the fellas. And so thank you all who came and were a part and are here today. Come on, look at you. You're full of church this weekend. My goodness. Friday night, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. Should we do it again next weekend? I don't know. But it was so good. So thanks for jumping in and being a part. Excited as we continue on in our Summer Love series. Amy read from Ephesians 5, verse 1, where Paul talks about that we would love one another and walk in the way of love. And what does it mean that we would walk in the way of love? There's a quote, "Love is at the root of everything. All learning, all parenting, all relationships. Love or lack of it." Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers. Come to church and get a Mr. Rogers quote today. Come on. We're going to talk about love specifically in relationships and today in conversations. A long time ago now, I guess it's not a few years, but we were leading a team and we were in Germany. And you've heard us share the stories before. We would spend a significant amount of time in Berlin and connecting with Gemeinde Alkenweh there and hang out. And then we would make our way to this tiny village of Herrnhut, which is where the story of the Moravians that we've shared before took place. And this little village of refugees that became intercessors, that became missionaries. And so we were taking just a group of 20-somethings, and we wanted to just go see this place. We would go all over in the area, different places where there were historical moves of God. So we went to Bonhoeffer's church, and we would go to Wittenberg and see where Luther nailed the 95 Theses, and and we would do all that. But we would specifically, all of that was an excuse to eventually make it to Herrnhut. Well, Herrnhut is not an easy place to get to. And so it was planes, trains, and automobiles to get there. And so there was not one direct way. And so I'm leading this team of 20-year-olds, and we're trying to get there. And we would take, obviously we fly to Berlin, and then you take a train, you change trains, and finally you get to a small village to where you take a bus from this small village to an even smaller village. And every step of the way, they spoke less and less English. Berlin, lots of English. We're on the S-Bahn, hanging out, being obnoxious Americans as we are, and then at one moment, someone on our team looks at a local there and is like, "Sorry, we're American," and they, in very clear English, said, "We know." But as you get further and further away, it's less and less English, and so here we are, group of people, and we're getting on this bus, and the door opens, and the driver grunts at me. And I assume he's wanting to know, what are all of these people doing getting on my bus? And so I try to tell him that there's 17 of us all getting on this bus. And so I'm like, 16, which, by the way, is not how you say 17 in German. But that's what I said. And so I think it's Zeiben, I don't know. It wasn't what I said. And so then he was like, "Rah," and I was like, "Zeistin," and he's like, "Rah," and I'm like, "What is happening?" And we go back and forth. I kid you not, because I'm trying to communicate how many of us there are so that I can give him the right amount of money so that we can all get on. And he just keeps grunting at me, and I'm like, this is not happening. Finally, I wish this was not true. I mean, I think this went back and forth for a solid 5 minutes. Finally, someone stood up, walked to the front of the bus, and they looked at me, and they said, "He's saying Herrnhut. That's where this bus is going." And I said, oh, yes, that's where we want to go. And so I got on. We were speaking 2 different languages, and neither of us speaking them very well, I don't think. I say all that to say, if you've ever been in a conversation where you're not speaking the same language, you're not getting a lot done, right? I have a friend, and every time we would travel to another nation together, it does not matter what nation we are in, he spoke Spanish. And it was always so annoying to me because I was like, that's so insulting to the actual country we are in. Like, speak their language. communication is massive. And so today, we want to talk about healthy conversations. And in the relationships that matter most to us, would we speak the same language? Would we do things in order to have good, healthy communication, right? So if you've ever been to any type of like premarital counseling, marriage counseling, right? What's the first thing you know you're going to talk about? Communication. But communication expands beyond just dating relationships, engaged relationships, marriage relationships. Every relationship that we are in, we need to have good, healthy communication, because there's so many times where I'm saying one thing and they're hearing another, or I'm saying one thing and they're saying one thing and neither of us are hearing each other. And so we need to have good, healthy relationships and conversations. And so we've been talking about this. We talked about our relationship with God, and that if we're going to have healthy relationships, it begins with knowing we are loved by Him and a healthy relationship with God. And even the importance of going back into some of our history and even our family history and dealing with some of the past wounds and traumas that we've had before in order to move forward into healthy relationships. We talked about the importance of leaning into connection rather than trying to control, and that we need to aim at connection with people. Last week I loved Kenny's message on the presence of God and our lives and our homes being generative places that bring life to the relationships we're in, and bring life as we bring people into our homes, and as we go out from our homes, that we would be generative in being life-giving. And so today we're going to really land on this idea of conversations and communication, and that the health of your relationships is largely determined by the health of your communication. We all know that. I think to the degree that you share honestly, to the degree that you listen without being defensive, that you respond intentionally in heightened moments and also in the most basic ones, will determine the level of intimacy and longevity and enjoyment in your closest relationships. James 1:19. This is going to be kind of our primary verse today. I'm going to read this and then I'm going to pray. James 1:19. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone, say everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Jesus, we need your help. God, I pray today, would you be in this conversation? God, I ask, would you be between Amy and I and every single person here? Would you filter out all that we would say that is not of you? Holy Spirit, we invite you to speak. We invite you, say what it is. Highlight specific things to each one of us. Would each one of us be transformed by your presence today, by your word? In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in and talk about being quick to listen. Seems like a pretty basic idea. However, I think that listening is a skill that we actually have to cultivate. And sadly, in one of my closest relationships in my college years, she was one of my dearest friends, and I just loved her so much, and I felt like we had a super healthy relationship. And probably about 6 months in, she wanted to meet with me at the church, and I was like, meet with me at the church? We normally go get milkshakes and fries at Red Robin. Like, what's up with this meeting? And she basically said, hey, like you're friends with me, but like I don't feel like I'm friends with you. And I was like, why? And she was like, because you do all the talking, and you never ask me questions, and you never ask how I'm doing. I always just come and I just listen to how you're doing. And it was so painful because, you know, I felt so close and so attached to her because, yeah, I was always sharing, and I felt like, man, I felt so known and so seen and so loved. But she didn't feel that way because I did all the talking. And so I'm just going to take this, I'm going to have these little questions to ask you. So what I want you to do is I want you to hold up like 10 fingers. You don't have to hold them up. But
10 fingers up. 10 fingers up. Come on, 10 fingers up. Come on.
All right, I'm going to ask you these questions.
Just put a finger down. You know it. Come on.
Okay, so yeah, so you're going to put a finger down if the answer is no. Okay? All right, so I've got 10 questions.
Come on. Let me see those hands. Come on.
Okay, so number 1. My close friends would describe me as a responsive listener. So if it's a no, put your finger down. When people are upset with me, I'm able to listen to them without being defensive. Oh. I listen not only to the words people say, but also to the feelings behind their words and their body language. Number 4, I have little interest in judging other people or quickly giving my opinion to them. I'm able to validate another person's feelings with empathy. I'm aware of my defense mechanisms in stressful situations. Example, appeasing, maybe ignoring, blaming, distracting. Okay. Number 7, I'm profoundly aware of how the family I was raised in has shaped my present listening style. I ask for clarification when listening, rather than fill in the blanks or make assumptions. Okay, 2 more.
Can I put 2 fingers in?
I don't interrupt to get my point across when another is speaking. All right, last one. I give people my undivided attention when they are talking to me. Woo! Okay, you guys ready? Okay, all right, so if you have 8 to 10 fingers still up, you are an outstanding listener. Okay, if maybe you've got 6 to 7, you're very good. If you got 4 to 5, you're good. If you've got 3 or fewer, I think you're in trouble. So I do that just to say, I think many of us, I don't think anyone would say, yeah, I'm a bad listener. Like, wow.
Hold on, thanks for participating.
Yes.
I see those hands. Next week, we're going to talk about self-awareness. No, I'm just, Kenny's like, 10 fingers up, come on.
Okay, so I just want to turn to Jesus, when I think he entered this world. He showed us just a beautiful model of listening, and someone who probably had very different opinions of other people too. I think it's easy to say, hey, yeah, I listen well when I like what you're talking about. I listen well when I agree with you. I listen well, but I think it's easy that we quickly become not quick to listen when maybe we disagree. Or maybe it's confrontational, and they're bringing up something that feels like it's personal, like this is against my character, and then all of a sudden it's like we check out. We're in another world. So Jesus, let's talk about Jesus. I think that when he entered our world, he entered another's world. He entered our world. And I think good listening is choosing to develop the skill of, I'm going to enter into someone else's world, rather than just stay in my own thoughts and my own opinions and my own judgments. A good listener chooses to, I'm going to enter into your world and seek to understand, and choose to engage not just my opinions and my judgments, but try to connect with, what are you going through, and can I sit with you in what you're communicating? So Jesus, he spoke to everyone clearly, respectfully. I think there are so many examples in the Gospels of him being just fully present with people. We've got Matthew, Nathaniel, a prostitute, Nicodemus, a blind man, and I love this verse in Mark 10:21. It says, Jesus, he looked at them, and he loved them. And so as we're talking about love, I think one of the greatest ways that we show love is by our attention, by our focus, by looking, by listening and loving. And I think to listen not just with our ears, but to listen, cultivate the skill of listening at the heart level with empathy and being attuned to their words, but not only their words, but their nonverbals. What are they communicating in another person? I love this quote by, his name's David Augsburger. He wrote a book called Caring Enough to Hear and Be Heard, and he said, being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they're almost indistinguishable. I don't know if you have probably moments when you felt like, man, I just felt so heard. I felt so seen. And maybe if you were sharing horrible news about, I remember a long time ago, an intern came to me, and she just talked about how her mom was just diagnosed with cancer. And in that, I didn't really know her very well, but in that moment, I just, by the grace of God, was able to slow down, and just as tears welled up in her eyes, tears welled up in my eyes, and just, okay, I want to connect with you and empathize with the devastation, the fear, and could we cultivate that level of empathy where I'm going to put myself in your shoes and I'm going to sit here with you in that moment. And it takes slowing down. It takes the skill of focusing and not being distracted. And listen, I am equally as guilty. I mean, in writing this sermon, I was just thinking about my children and all the stories that they tell me throughout the day. And half the time I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? Because I'm like, they started a story, and then 2 minutes in, I'm like, oh, you're talking to me. So I am just as guilty as being so distracted, and it's like sounds everywhere that I'm not really focused. And so it's something that we've got to be cultivated.
I've never heard that Red Robin story. I don't know if I believe it.
It's gross.
Guys, if you've ever been with Amy, she is a question asker. Sometimes too much so. I'm like, hey, people feel that's a very personal question. Jesus entered our world, but we also see that Jesus held on to himself, right? He was fully God and fully man. He didn't just conform to the world. He remained himself. And I think part of listening is that we don't always have to agree. I think even one of the things that we would want to really highlight today is the aim at hearing and understanding does not necessarily mean agreeing. It does not always mean that we have to come to the same conclusions. And so Jesus, I think, modeled that oftentimes when we are in an unhealthy way, we want or expect someone else to think and feel the way we do. Or we feel pressured to conform to think and feel like they do. But when it's healthy, we can respect each other's separateness, differences, allowing somebody else to have their own thoughts, allowing someone else to have their own feelings, their own fears, their own values. This is probably a lost art in today's world, a little bit. We all want everyone to think like us and be like us. And there's something to being able to hear someone, put yourself in their place, understand them, but continue on in being who you are. And so Amy used that word attunement. I don't fully know what that means. I'm going to leave that up to Tina and Roberta. It sounds like to me being in tune. Right? That we would be, like whenever you hear a guitar and it's clearly not in tune, right? And it's like, what do you got to please tune your guitar? All those strings need to sound good together. It doesn't mean they all have to be the same. Actually, they can't be the same. If they are all the same, it won't be in tune. And so they all need to be different, but together. And so that is part of what we want to be, not just listening, but actively, not just changing the way we think, but listening, trying to understand, and actively listening with our face, actively our body. This is, Amy gets on to me all the time, right? I'm fully engaged. I am fully listening. Am I on my phone? Yes. Does that mean I'm not listening? No. But probably. And so that we would try to do our best to make sure people feel felt by you, seen by you.
Okay, so the last thing that Jesus modeled is that he lived in this tension between two worlds. A world that he was absolutely misunderstood by and persecuted. And we may not, I think in relationships, we may not like what we hear, but can we, in humility, kind of hold the tension and hang between the tension of our different perspectives? And as Christ followers, I think this is what, as Jesus modeled, that he's inviting us to model too. And that I think that we can, as Dan was talking about, listening fully and not fully agreeing. I think our opportunity for growth is, can we listen without reacting? Can we listen with patience? Can we listen and not become defensive? I think that early on in marriage, you go to premarital counseling and it's, how's your communication? You're like, our communication is awesome. And we think we're such great communicators. And today's actually our 18-year anniversary. And so 18 years in, yes, realizing, gosh, we're still growing in this communication thing and not reacting and not being defensive and not being judgmental. And I love just the idea of actually listening is a form of picking up our cross. And choosing to deny ourselves, our opinions and our judgments and our fears and our frustrations. And when I choose to be patient and listen even though I disagree, or I would even maybe say even read things even though I disagree, is a form of growing in humility and picking up our cross, and a death to self, a death to, I'm offended right now, I disagree right now. And it's a form of dying to ourself. And even through the time it takes, the energy it takes to hold space for people, to share when you don't agree, disagreeing is a form of, okay, I'm picking up my cross, and I'm holding the tension that Jesus, you understood so well, and you were able to sit in it and embrace it and listen with empathy, even though I was thinking about this, the amount that he hears from all of us every day, and he really disagrees. He's used to that. He's used to listening and really disagreeing and still loving and still having empathy and compassion. So I think it's something we can all say, yes, Lord, help me be more like you. Oh, me still. Oh my gosh, sorry. Okay. Oh, I get caught. Okay, so how can we be a good listener? All right, I have a few things. Love is patient. Love is listening. So when you read that verse, love is patient, it's like, oh, okay. Okay, now apply it to listening with someone you disagree with. Are you patient there? Okay, God, help grow love in me. So 2 is giving people your full attention. This is what, man, more than ever, this is so hard. And our attention spans are getting like less and less. One thing I read over the years, and I've read it multiple times, is when trying to give instruction to your little boys, they say, if you can touch them and make them look at you, they'll listen. They'll get it more. All right, number 3 is stepping into someone else's shoes and trying to feel what they feel. Avoiding judgment, avoiding interrupting. Oh, I can be so bad at this. And I think there's a few reasons we interrupt. One is I think we're afraid we're going to forget, which is absolutely very real. Or we're so excited about something, and we're like, yeah, I want to talk too. And so I think where we can, okay, help me not interrupt, and Lord, help me remember what I was going to say. Something else that we can do is, I think, reflect back as accurately as you can what you heard someone say is a way that we actively listen. I think asking when they're done, is there anything more? Anything more you want to share? And this is especially true and especially hard when they're bringing something that they're frustrated with you about. And the spiritual maturity to go, okay, this is what I hear you saying. Is there anything more you want to share? And then I think when they're done is asking, what's the most important thing you really want me to remember? So I think those 3 things, when someone has shared, is, okay, reflecting back to them, asking, is there anything more? And then asking, what's the most important thing? Wow, would our relationships, I think, be healthier, be deeper, be closer, be more authentic, last longer? I think because we don't do this when things get tough, but our tendency is to run because it's scary. And it's like, okay, God, would you cultivate in me this patient endurance, and would I bear my cross in this way? I don't know if I've ever really thought much about, wow, listening is a form of bearing my cross.
I think the idea would be to listen as an act of love. And whether that is a spouse, whether that is a friend, whether that is someone that you share a lot in common with, or someone who you have a lot of differences with, that we would love like Jesus by actively listening. I'm terrible at it at times. I remember one time I have a hard time listening, specifically even what Amy's saying, when it's kind of a confrontation moment without getting defensive. I remember one time I had a meeting with one of my oversight, and he was challenging me. He said, Dan, when we're in a meeting and I say something you don't like, you turn bright red, and everyone knows that you are mad. And I said, yeah, well, welcome to my life. Do you see how white I am? I can't hide anything. Like, it's, so I'm like, what do you want me to do about it, And I think I was honest in that moment. I don't know that I can control that, other than I can maybe control my thoughts. I can control my breathing. I can control what. And so being quick to listen is a strange phrase. It's like ready, set, stop. Because listening is slowing down. Listening is going slow. And so would we be quick to listen as an expression of love? And so it's hard for me in our marriage when Amy, through the years, would bring something to me. Personally, I have this thing inside of me that I don't ever want to fail. And I don't want to be seen as coming up short or failing in any way. So I don't like when Amy wants to address something that I need to do better, because that means I'm not perfect. And how dare you tell me I'm not perfect? That is hitting the very core of my insecurity. And so I would be defensive, and I would respond poorly over and over again. And what that did is that would lead Amy to not want to share with me things that I could get better at. And so we would get stuck in this, I'm not growing, she's not talking, not great, right? And so part of being quick to listen is actually for your good. You will grow as you are willing to listen to somebody else, apply what they say. Doesn't mean you have to agree. It doesn't mean you have to be the same. But are you willing to listen, receive it, non-defensive, especially when you know that they love you and they're for you? It's like, okay, you're not trying to attack me right now. Let me take this. And listen, is this real? Is there anything that is true about this? And if there is any part of it that's true, okay, what can I do? This will help you, I believe, in your relationships if you will actively listen, if you will ready, set, stop, if you will slow down to hear from someone. It not only will help them feel heard, I think it can help us in our own growth, because we can hear from them, and we're not defensive and trying to be the perfect person. We're actually not. We actually can say, oh yeah, I probably do need to grow, which then encourages people, hey, I can speak into their life, and that's helping them, rather than shutting them down. And so, in order to, I think this first one of being quick to listen, I would just encourage maybe slow down, ask questions, right? Be a question asker. The person, I love this, the person who leads a conversation is not actually the one talking, it's the one asking questions. The more questions you ask, you actually are the one that's like, hey, what are we talking about here? Be someone that is actively asking questions. I cannot have a conversation with my dad where I say something where he doesn't end it by saying, here's what I hear you saying. Am I saying rightly what you said to me? And I'm like, yeah, great. Or no, you totally missed it. I need to communicate better. So let's ask questions, slow down, seek to understand. Not always agree, but can I understand where you're coming from? Can I articulate what you're saying? This will cause defenses to go down. Specifically, if there's disagreement, if you see the world differently, if you can articulate someone, this is what I see you saying or hear you saying, this is what I think, how you see the situation, am I saying it correctly? If you can articulate and them knowing you disagree with them, defenses will go down, and now we can have some communication. Okay, so be quick to listen, and now the fun one. Slow to speak. Yay. Be slow to speak. Every word that we speak, biblically speaking, we see, every word we speak brings life or death. Jesus, in Matthew 12, made a statement that haunts me. He says, but I tell you that everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have ever spoken. Woof. My day is full of a lot of empty words. I've told you so many times of, the amount of times I have to send the apology text. I'm so sorry I said the thing. I'm so sorry that I just say stupid stuff sometimes. Every word we have is powerful. And I believe that this is not just like good biblical principle. This is a spiritual reality. We live in a world that exists through the spoken word. That God spoke. He said, let there be light. Words have creative ability. They also have destructive ability. There's a Jewish saying that says, the tongue is so dangerous, it must be placed behind two walls, the mouth and the teeth, to prevent it from use. There is power in our words. Paul writes in Ephesians 4, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that they may benefit those who listen. This is one of the first Bible verses my parents ever had me memorize. I'm sure that was intentional. Don't let any unwholesome word come out of your mouth. Other translations, don't let any corrupt speech come out of your mouth. Any words that would tear down, but only that which is helpful for building others up. Here's where that's hard. That's really hard with people that you are really close to and you do a lot of life with, so you feel like you have some liberty to say some stuff. It's also really hard with people you don't know very well, and so you feel like you can say whatever you want. It turns out that's really hard on all the spectrum of our relationships, to not let any unwholesome word come out of our mouth, but only that which is life-giving, which is bringing life, which is supportive to them and what God is doing. This is where we talk about agreeing with the Holy Spirit, agreeing with the advocate over someone's life, not agreeing with the accuser over someone's life. This is what at our men's weekend yesterday morning, when Nathan Duddles was talking about the power of agreement, that we in prayer and in agreement, that there is power in our words. And so would we be those who use the words God has given us to bring life? Proverbs 18:21. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat of its fruit. There is power in your words. There is life in your words. If your spouse is not the person that you think they ought be, I dare you to call out everything good in them, to speak life over them. We like to nitpick. We like to talk about the negative things about our kids. We like to talk about the negative things about our neighbors. It feels good, right? It's choice morsels. Paul is saying, don't let any unwholesome word come out of your mouth. Do you know where that's hard? Gossip feels good. Slander makes me feel good about myself. Mocking someone else, ooh, that's easy. Those are things we slide into just real easy. Do you know what's hard? Looking for the good, being encouraging, speaking truth. It at least, if it's not hard, it at least takes intentionality. And so I want to encourage you to be someone who says, I am going to not let any unwholesome word in my relationships as best I can. And I'm going to come up short so many times. I'm going to be quick to repent. I'm going to repent to the Lord. I'm going to repent to the person. But I want my words to bring life into someone else's life. Here's what I would just say. I think that your words that have the power to tear down or the power to build up, the power that they bring life or they bring death. And they are a threefold messenger of life and death. Your words are a threefold messenger of life and death. It affects you. It affects the person you're talking to. And it affects the person you're talking about. There is, when you are speaking words of corruption, slander, gossip over somebody else, to somebody else, this is going to negatively impact you. It's going to open you up, I believe, to attack from the enemy. It's going to cause your soul to be corrupted. You're going to corrupt the person you're talking to. It's going to cause them to dislike the person you're talking about. And so it is this threefold carrier. But I think it's true of when we speak life as well. It builds life in you. It builds life in the person you're talking to. It builds life about the people you're talking about, who sometimes the subject is you or is them. And so I think in our relationships that we would really understand our words matter. So would we guard our tongue? Would we guard our words? Would we be quick to listen, slow to speak? That's hard. It takes discipline.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about how we can be good sharers, how we can communicate. Okay, we want to be, quick to listen, but also how do we share the things in our heart, and how do we share what's really going on? And so a tool that we've, come in touch with is just this idea of sharing what they call I messages. And so when we begin to share, that we would share from our hearts. And so sharing a message that starts with I feel, and then fill in an emotion. I think many times we start our communication by saying, by actually sharing I think. But we say the word I feel. And even when we were working on this yesterday, we're crafting this sermon together, and how many times I said, well, I feel that we should take this part out. And it's like, wait, that's not a feeling. That's a statement. That's a I think we should do. And I think that many times when we, see, I said it. I think, okay. How many times we say, I feel, but we're actually not feeling. We're addressing an issue of something we're thinking about. Or we say I think, and we're actually talking about our heart. And so I just want to give you this little phrase, but just starting with, I feel blank when, then describe the experience. And I need to feel fill in the blank. And I think that what we've realized in our own communication is that, you know, when I'm sharing something that I'm frustrated about or I'm annoyed by, like,
It's very rarely.
okay. Well, because I'm a horrible sharer. Anyways, we can get into that. But I think that you said it. Oh my gosh. That when we share from our heart and we share how we're feeling about something, it causes our emotions, the heat of the tension, and our defenses to come down. And so when I share with Dan, like I feel sad or I'm afraid, what that provokes in him is empathy. Now to hear what I'm talking about, versus when I come in with I feel we need to do this different. Like, I wish we did this different. All of a sudden, he feels the accusation about something he's doing versus him having access to my heart. And so I think how to be a good sharer, starting with I feel messages. What's the emotion that you're feeling in the relationship with what's happening? I think when we can keep our statements brief, I know I'm really guilty at this, wanting to just like talk and over-explain, and then it just kind of gets muddled, and it's like, okay, how can I make this the most concise statement so that it's what are we really talking about here? So keeping our statements brief. I think that stopping to let the listener paraphrase. Rather than continuing to talk and they're just now overwhelmed and bombarded with so much emotion, but it's like, okay, what are we actually talking about here? So even you as the sharer, stop for a minute, take a breath, you shared your statement, and now letting them respond. Include your feelings. So I'm not saying be stoic and not share, and allow yourself to feel when you're sharing. And I think that the invitation to be honest, be clear, and be respectful. I love this quote from Pete Scazzaro. He says, in the family of God, we speak respectfully, we speak honestly, even though it might be hard, we speak clearly, and we speak timely. I think it's so easy to, depending on your kind of confrontation style, if it's easy for you to vocalize, they kind of say, like, there's the bear, there's the fox, and there's the groundhog in relationships. And it's like, are you the person that's like, I get it out there quickly? Or are you the, like, groundhog that's like, I'm going to go underneath the surface and just, like, stand underneath here because it's too scary? Or are you the fox that's a little bit more kind of manipulative and trying to get your point across? And so I think understanding your style of communication, of how honest are you? How timely are you? How respectful are you? Okay, so anything you want to add?
Yeah. Can I encourage us to get offline and stop trying to have conversation over text messages with people you don't know? Imagine when Amy and I, or my kids, or a friend, if we have conflict, we need to talk about it. Let's do it face to face. It's so. I've recently been dealing with something with someone, and the vast difference between even a phone call and the text messages was wild. And so it's so easy to, when we are communicating via text message or some other form of messaging with someone that you're in disagreement with, I think it's really hard to communicate really well and godly, and it's really easy to have some vindictiveness, to have a little anger in there. And so if there are hard conversations that need to take place, to the best that you can, with your friends, with your cousin, with a roommate, there's something about looking someone in the eye and having that conversation that will change the tone of that conversation. And there's something about having a little, blue bubble on your phone that just feels like I can say whatever I want to say. And it doesn't matter. And it does. And also, you can say something and you can be the most articulate version of yourself. and somehow you hit send, and it comes out in some wild ways. So, as we are sharers, as we want to share, I encourage you have human-to-human interaction as best you can. And one of the things that I think we're growing in, as we head into year 18. Head into or finish? I don't know. What is it? How does that work? Finish year 18. Woo. Yeah. I think this last 6 months, maybe this last year, we've taken significant ground in our own communication. Still growing. We've learned I'm not who I thought I was. And, one of the things that's interesting is I'm of the type that if you ask me what I want, what I feel, I don't even know that I know. So I'm willing just to go along and get along and have a good time. I need to learn what I want and what I feel and be able to articulate it. That's one of the things I need to grow in. Amy knows what she feels. But she doesn't want to be selfish, and so she doesn't want to be confrontational. And so I just don't even know, she likes to suppress it. Not likes to, but she tends to suppress it. Now we have two people not communicating their desire, their wants, their feelings. In the name of having healthy communication, we're having no communication. So I encourage you, communicate. If you know how you feel, communicate it. Now, maybe talk to a friend. Hey, this is how I want to say this. How does that sound? If you don't know the things that you feel, search it out, ask. But we need to communicate. We need to be able to express those things in your friendships, in your relationships. Because when you communicate a desire, a want, a feeling, and it is heard or not heard, that shapes the relationship. When you don't communicate it, now neither of you know what the other wants or feels, and now there is no real pathway other than just dumb luck to things getting better. And so I think we need to grow in our communication, our courage. To me, for me, expressing things is like standing in front, like Whitewater Rapids, and I'm looking at the rapid, and I'm like, oh, I'm safe on the side over here. We need to have the courage to jump in, go through it, and realize, oh, I lived. Oh, we're actually better off for it. So.
Yeah, and I think I would just, in kind of final statements here, is just say that maybe in a relationship or in marriage, if you feel like, man, we tried to talk about this and we just don't see eye to eye. And so if anyone has punted on restitution, that's going to show up later. It's just like, the story of the wheat and the tares, and they're going to grow up together. And so I think I just want to encourage things that have, maybe you've learned, you've learned how to cope with the disagreement. You've learned how to cope with, we don't see eye to eye on this, and so I'm just going to bury it. Or you learned to cope with, I didn't feel heard, and change didn't happen. That it's going to surface at some point. And I just want to encourage you, if you're a barrier, if you're a suppressor, if you're a stuffer, I want to encourage you, I'm going to pray for you, that you would just have courage to bring it up. And I think that if you're the person that has felt, maybe you felt attacked, maybe it's been wounding, it's been hurtful, and I don't want to talk about that, and there's been some defensiveness. Could I just encourage that humility, encourage you to say, okay, God, I want to hear my friend, I want to hear my coworker, I want to hear my spouse, and really it comes down to the humility and the willingness to change, or the humility and willingness to be wrong, and that's hard. And it's probably, we're talking about opening up a can of worms, or you feel like, yeah, no, there's a ton of wheat and tares, or we're just going to gut the whole thing. And I think just want to encourage that the beauty of our relationships is the Lord making us more like him. And that our disagreement, our conflict, our emotions, the things that we go through, are gifts from him to make us ready for him. And so please, just want to encourage would we have boldness to bring the things up again? Would we have courage to listen again? that the Lord would bring healing, that he would bring greater unity, that he would bring greater intimacy.